You cannot curse a people that God has blessed. These are the words that God spoke to a man called Balaam, who was preparing to go and curse the children of Israel. Welcome to today's topic. My name is Regina and this is Regenerate, and today we are going to look at a statement that God made, which should be an encouragement to us. And this statement is what I've just said: you cannot curse that which God has blessed. This is a story of a prophet called Balaam, and it is found in Numbers 22, Numbers chapter 22. Now, when the children of Israel were sojourning from Egypt, when they left Egypt on their way to the promised land, the journey that took a long time, in the midst of their traveling and going through the desert, they encountered some tribes, some nations, and they fought. Sometimes they fought their way through. Sometimes God would tell them, don't fight, just go around them. But among the people they fought, they always won. They won battles along the way. And so their fame spread across the land. And so when they were approaching, there were some nations that really feared them. One of those nations was the nation of Moab. And the king of Moab, whose name was Balak, hired a man called Balaam. The king was called Balak, and he hired a man called Balaam, who was a prophet. There's some people who say that Balaam may have been a false prophet, but the Bible clearly indicates that Balaam was not a false prophet. Why? Because he may not have been right with God. His heart was not in the right place, but he was a prophet because he heard from God. God spoke to him, and God gave him, told him what would happen. And so he was not really a false prophet, but he was not faithful. His heart was not right, was not in the right place as far as God was concerned. And so if you have time, you can read the story in Numbers 22, but for the sake of time, I'll just give a little background. So when King Balak realized that the children of Israel were approaching, and he heard stories about how they had fought with other tribes like the Amorites and destroyed them, he was afraid. And so he realized, I may not be able to defeat them in battle, but if I curse them, I will have an upper hand. And so he hired this this prophet called Balaam, to come and curse the children of Israel. And he was bribing him. He was paying him hefty sums of money so that he could come. And according to the story, when Balaam was preparing to go, God was telling him, don't go, don't go. And it was like a back and forth between God and Balaam, because he wanted to go. I think the money was enticing enough, but God was telling him, don't go. And many people know this story about him finally being allowed to go, but along the way he was almost killed by an angel, and his donkey spoke to him and told him, don't beat me, because the donkey could see the angel with a sword. So that's the story that people may be familiar with. But my intention today is to discuss this statement: you cannot curse that which God has blessed. Because finally, when God allowed Balaam to go, he told him, go, but only say that which I tell you to say. And he ended up actually blessing the people instead of cursing them. And God said, and this is verse 12 of Numbers 22, God said to Balaam, you shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. So that was the statement. And therefore, he couldn't curse them. These people were already blessed. And so whatever curse he would have tried to place on them would not have worked. But if you read the story for yourself, you notice that every time when Balaam finally got there and he would open his mouth, 3 times he opened his mouth to try and curse, but only blessings came out. Blessings came out, which tells me that sometimes people may try to speak, bad things to you, or curse you, or speak negative things to your life. But if God has blessed you, he has blessed you. But the story that really I would like to share with you today is a story that I've wondered about for a while. And this is the story of Noah. Noah had 3 sons. Everybody who is familiar with the Bible a little bit will know the story of Noah. Noah is a guy who built the ark when he was told by God in preparation for the flood that was going to come. And Noah had 3 sons. He had, this story is actually found in Genesis chapter 9. You can read that. And Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Japheth, and Ham. And these are the sons that went to the ark with him, together with their wives and also his wife. But according to the story of Noah, after the flood, Noah settled in a place where he became a farmer. He started planting vineyards, and he would get the grapes out of the vines. And the story is that at some point he made the grapes into wine after harvesting. And after drinking the wine from these grapes, he was drunk, and he lay in his tent. And because of he was drunk, he fell asleep. So part of his clothing went off, and so he was naked. He was bare. And his youngest son, whose name was Ham, happened to go into the tent and saw his father lying there naked. And he found it funny. And instead of doing anything about it, like to really cover him up, he went out and called his brothers. He called his 2 brothers, Japheth and Shem, to come and witness the bareness or the nakedness of the father. So the story is that when these 2 older brothers had that, they took some sort of clothing and they went to the tent, and then they walked backwards and covered the father. So they did not look at the father. They walked backwards and they covered the father's nakedness to cover him. And so when Noah woke up, he was told about what had happened, and he was angry with his son Ham. So he did not, and this is the reason I'm saying you cannot curse that which is blessed. And so, because Noah was angry with with his youngest son, when he heard about what he had done, he I don't know why he felt he needed to curse him, but he did not curse him. And I don't know how many of you read this story and wonder, why didn't Noah curse Ham? Because he did not curse Ham, even though Ham is the one who had laughed at him, made jokes. He's the one who had seen him naked. But he cursed his son's son. He cursed Ham's son, whose name was Canaan. That's what the Bible says. I think in Genesis 18, from verse 18, Uko. So, have you wondered why? Why would this man not curse the son who has done wrong and curse the grandson who has nothing to do with the wrong that has happened? So the answer to that story we will find in not only what God has said to Balaam later, many years later, that you cannot curse a people that God has blessed, but you can actually read that story from Genesis chapter 9 verse 1. Genesis chapter 9 verse 1 is after the flood, after the flood and the waters have gone down and the ark rested on the mountain, Mount Ararat. And then when Noah came out with his people, his wife, his sons, and their wives, this is what God said. So this is Genesis 9:11. So God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Remember, everyone else had been wiped out by the flood. And so God is blessing Noah and his sons the same way he had blessed Adam many years ago, many years previous to this. So be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. And that is the reason. Notice here that God blessed Noah and his sons. His sons were Japheth, Shem, and Ham. So Ham was blessed together with his father and his brothers by God himself after they came out of the ark. And therefore, Noah could not curse Ham because he was already included in the blessing that God had blessed him. And that is the reason Noah cursed Ham's son, because he could not curse Ham, his own son. So that is the reason. You cannot curse that which God has blessed. God had already blessed Ham, even though he went and did something stupid later, but his own father could not curse him because God had already blessed him. So if you're blessed, you cannot be cursed. If God has blessed you, and indeed God has blessed you, you cannot be cursed. That is something you need to remind yourself if you're tempted to think that things are going wrong, things are going this way and that way because maybe someone spoke a curse on me. If God has blessed you, you cannot be cursed. And that is the story I would want you to remember. So thank you and see you in the next video.